Okay, fantastic. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Christopher Beier, and I'm one of the PMMs here, specifically for SIM and logs for security at Sumo Logic. And I hope to make this a fairly interactive process. There's going to be some questions I might ask, and if you can find the chat function, you'll be able to respond to me in that way. Just one sentence about me. I want to make this a lot about threat hunting and the technologies and things and the history behind it. But I wanted to give you one sense about kind of where I'm coming from. I've been in the cybersecurity space now for 30 years. We had to count that up earlier this summer. I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this a long time. And it all started in the Navy. I was in IT too on a submarine. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. Okay, so let's get started. Imagine it's 2 a.m. The office is empty. Your security systems are in place. The firewalls are strong. The antivirus software is updated. Yet, hidden deep within your network, an attacker has already bypassed these defenses. For the past 3 weeks, they've moved quietly, gathering credentials, escalating privileges, and mapping out your entire environment. But no alarms were triggered, no alerts were raised. They didn't rely on flashy exploits, but they relied on patience and precision, right? This is a horrible reality, right, that I think is happening. So if this is something you're worried about, go ahead and give me a one in the chat, right? Why are these attackers not making noise anymore? Why are we not getting alerts? What is happening that we're not seeing that? Look, everybody's giving me a one. It's like, yes, we're feeling this, right? This is where threat hunting comes in, where we can't rely on being reactive anymore. We have to start hunting these guys down and be proactive, tracking down these silent intruders, identifying the subtle patterns, making sure that no stone is unturned. Because unlike, say, college football, one of my favorite sports out there, maybe the best defense in this case might be a good offense. Right. So if you agree with that, then let's get started here. So why does threat hunting matter? When it comes down to it, attackers are not relying on a single strategy. They're employing a variety of different types of attacks in order to get into your systems. Right. Phishing remains one of the top tactics, gaining this initial access. Ransomware continues to evolve, encrypting the data and demanding payments. Zero-day exploits, DNS spoofing, both are demonstrating, the rising threat of unknown vulnerabilities. And in reality is the attack vectors keep on expanding. So not only are the bad guys out there are doing what they're doing, but we are also contributing to this function with all the new cloud services and APIs and hybrid environments and digital transformation and all the new tools and assets and things that we're using. We're introducing new attack surfaces. So threat actors are able to exploit your web applications, your networks, your user endpoints, and they're using techniques like SQL injection and cross-site scripting. It's like, hey, I thought we knew something about these things, right? Traditional security tools may not be able to detect what's happening in your cloud environments. And that's part of the concern that I'm hearing a lot of people have. So why is threat hunting critical now? All right. So it's about proactive identification of hidden threats that is necessary to catch man-in-the-middle attacks, lateral movement that might be happening, within the cloud, to the cloud, from your on-prem kind of solutions. especially after initial compromise or via phishing or ransomware. And we have to really start closing the gaps where traditional security products might be failing, and start thinking about our how we can better use our tech stack, our security tech stack. Where does the SIM come in to generate the right types of alerts, and ultimately those alerts that matter, but they don't always correlate to some of the very complex multi-step attacks that these guys are doing. So threat hunting needs to fill that gap, identifying these suspicious behaviors before they escalate into a larger incident. And thinking about that, I wanted to give you just a brief history. Where did threat hunting come from, right? And actually, going back a little bit, the first time we saw the word hunter or becoming a hunter occurred in an InfoSec magazine article in 2011. And I'm not going to get the gentleman's name correct, but Richard Beachlick was the author of a concept called counter threat operations. And this article marks the shift from a reactive defense to proactive threat hunting, emphasizing the need to start actively pursuing intruders kind of in the environment and what's happening within the network. And from there, it kind of grew. In 2013, we have David Bianco's Pyramid of Pain, where he's introducing a framework, and we're going to go over that framework a little bit. That kind of classifying the different types of indicators that you might see. Kind of a key takeaway from that is effective threat hunting focuses on higher levels of indicators, the tools and behaviors, as opposed to the lower end of that, and we'll explain why. In 2016, SANS first started talking about having their first threat hunting summit. So they recognized that threat hunting as a formal practice is important, and the event helped define what modern threat hunting is, and really pulled together the first group of industry experts to start talking about a methodology for how do we really do this in a proper way, right? 2017, SANS started putting out the first threat hunting survey. 2018, we started getting a threat hunting methodology, a threat hunting incident triage initiative, introduced a structured methodology for conducting hunts systematically. And then finally in 2020, NIST added threat hunting as a formal control to the NIST 853 framework, which again, reflecting the growing importance of why we have to have proactive security practice in addition to the reactive, tools that we're all still using today. So again, a little bit of history to mark the significant movement in where threat hunting becomes part of the compliance, framework of many of our policies. So I wanted to throw this out there as a little bit of history. You guys give me a one in the comment, I guess in the chat. Do you have a threat hunting practice already in place in your environments today?
Also, Chris, while folks are putting their number in the chat, we had a question come in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Kyle's wondering, it's of course fair to say that these are more public remarks of threat hunting, but he's wondering if it started earlier, even than this timeline. And he was just wondering that. He's been in the industry for about 8 years now, so he wanted more context.
Well, I'm sure we've had a concept of threat hunting all the way back to when we were protecting castles. Where before we get attacked, maybe we should search the woods for Robin Hood before we get there. So absolutely, it's the question of when did I threw this history up to start the idea of when did it become an industry kind of importance, and how where we're moving to even today. and where things are sort of coming from. But yes, there's been individuals who've thought about, a more proactive approach. In fact, we started. I mean, if you're as old as I am, we used to talk about a lot of preventive security and how do we prevent things from happening. And then we quickly learned that that's really hard to do. So I think that it's part of being both proactive and reactive in the industry today, and how do we go about utilizing it. And I can imagine, this is a higher level concept when we're talking about threat hunting. So if you don't have a SOC in place already, you're a small organization. This might be a new practice to think about, or think about how you're engaging your MSSPs for those who have outsourced some of the security function for your organizations. Okay, so let's take a look at a threat hunting kind of maturity model, and there's certainly a lot to unpack within this maturity model, and it really all starts with data collection. Right? You're going to hear this a lot from me. Obviously, I have a bias being a SIM guy, but data collection is really about having access to all the diverse and high quality telemetry that is critical for any hunting effort. Indeed, today's hunting, efforts, they touch everything that might be involved into your organization, and are heavily intertwined with concepts like the MITRE ATT&CK framework. If you're looking at that now, that deserves its own slide here in this presentation, so we're going to be talking about that as well. But one of the critical points in looking at this maturity model is, after data, is being able to create a hypothesis. Right? This is the critical link to makes this a more proactive orientation for threat hunting. Is, hey, after I see what's happening in my environment, how can I ask a good question? In that these hunts typically begin with this hypothesis, and we either prove the hypothesis or disprove the hypothesis, creating whatever that hunting outcome is. So the industry has kind of termed this hypothesis-based hunting. Since then, there's a few other hunting types that have been introduced: unstructured or data-driven hunting, machine-assisted threat hunting, where we can pull in AI types of capabilities. And as you might imagine, you can start very, initially with these types of practices, and then get into what is the leading, kind of capability, where you're collecting lots of data, you're reviewing threat intelligence, both friendly and unfriendly. You're, creating, visualizations and graphs and so on, and ultimately you're hypothesizing and going out and testing those hypotheses. Right. It should be noted that even in the case of unstructured and machine-assisted hunting types, the hypothesis of some kind is still present. You still have to ask AI, hey, go look for this, or should we be looking for that? And it forms the basis of this kind of hunting engagement. In looking at the tools and techniques kind of section, you want to note that in the leading category, it calls for visualizations, graphing paradigms, dashboards, things that artifacts that you can link back to, so you can show the progress of your threat hunting, practice and capability, and be able to share that information with others. And then obviously when we're getting down to it, we're going to get into the pyramid of pain in a second to see where TTP detections come in. Note that in the leading, threat hunting category here, it calls for tracking adversary campaigns and have the ability to share those IOCs with other organizations. And we actually do a little bit of that for you here at Sumo, in some of the processes that we have with our global confidence score. So we're using machine learning, anonymized data to help share across all of the customers that are using our cloud SIM, which of those insights are legitimate or not. So again, as a function or foundation for your threat hunting efforts. Okay. So the pyramid of pain. Give me two in the to chat, if you will, if you're familiar with the pyramid of pain. I want to see how deep I need to get into this. Vaguely, okay. Two, yes. I asked for a number, Lisa, and they give me answers. It's fantastic.
More detailed than the number.
All right. Fantastic. I appreciate that. So 2 years after this article came out in the magazine, David Bianco generated uh, this graphic illustration, which we're terming the pyramid of pain. This is from the threat actor's point of view, and it's what pieces in the life cycle of the attack that are difficult to change or swap out if detected by the organization, who they're targeting, right? So obviously at the bottom, a hash value, easy to swap out. IP addresses, domain names. As you go up the stack here to TTPs at the top, those are the hardest for them to obfuscate and hide from you, right? In this case, if we kind of flip the logic around and look at the pyramid of pain through you guys, the analyst, the practitioner lens, we can start seeing like, oh, well, wait a minute. Why am I searching for hash values in my logs? Because they could have changed by now. What I need to be looking for is those things at the top end. So here's a little bit of an attack scenario for you guys. So a user receives a phishing email, proceeds to download and execute the payload. The payload establishes some command and control, so the attacker now has control and has a Cobalt Strike instance. The attacker proceeds to use Minicats and in-memory download and extract credentials from the victim's host system, right? The attacker then uses these extracted credentials to move laterally throughout the environment. If everybody's got that, if we start overlaying this attack progression with the pyramid of pain, sweeping the environment for hash values of the initial payload, that's pretty easy. You can trivially do that. Locating an IP address for the initial infection vector, searching the environment or for other hosts making outbound network connections to this IP. Okay, we can do that. And in fact, we actually have made it even simpler for you in Cloud SIM. I'll show you a neat feature here at the end of our presentation. But investigating that IP and correlating it to a domain name, we can go and block that at the firewall. Okay. We examine the infected host for signs of compromise, determining where the stolen credentials were utilized. Oh my God, this is kind of annoying. But in the end, we're performing memory analysis on the host, which we see Mimikatz, and then we make a determination that this is the tool that was used. So now we're looking for that everywhere else. Okay, that's a little bit challenging. Now we're putting the entire attack together. Cohesive timeline. What happened? Breaking it down. What are the categories? Credential theft, phishing, lateral movement. Okay, this is getting a little bit tougher. So linking back to a threat hunting concept, the focus of the hunting effort should be on those higher tiers of the pyramid and not the lower tiers of the pyramid. That is, something like sweeping the environment for a hash value or IP address, while trivial, easy, not really threat hunting at this point. Threat hunting efforts should focus on those higher tiers of the pyramid so that we can see the tools and tactics and procedures and how these attacks happen so that we can ultimately prevent the next step. Okay. And as I said, one of the large components of successful threat hunting practice is the MITRE ATT&CK framework, is having the definitive source of TTPs. So why does MITRE ATT&CK, matter for threat hunting? And it should be pretty self-explanatory, but here's a couple of points I want to make. It starts with providing a common language that we can all talk about threats in the same way. The MITRE ATT&CK framework offers that shared vocabulary that aligns the threat actor's tactics, techniques, and procedures with what your security teams could be looking for. So it ensures consistency in how organizations identify and respond to threats. Focusing on TTPs, I believe, should be the core of threat hunting. Threat hunting aims to detect unknown and advanced threats by focusing on the behavioral indicators as opposed to the atomic indicators like an IP or hash file. So MITRE tracks these techniques and is able to give us updates. I think they do it a couple of times a year so that we can see what phases lateral movement or privilege escalation so we can guide our hunters to search beyond these simple alerts, right? It helps guide the hypothesis. So if I see one technique in the category, maybe it's under initial access, what could I expect to see in the execution stage or the persistence stage or the privilege escalation stage? So I can now start generating my hypothesis of what to look for, right? And of course, this also supports data collection analysis, identifies gaps and visibilities of what you might be tracking or not tracking, or what your security stack might, keep you apprised of, or where your blind spots might be. And of course, this also helps us because it gives us a timeline of tracking that adversarial behavior over time. Okay, so it's really important to look at the MITRE ATT&CK framework and incorporate that. Look at it. How can you incorporate that into your tool stack that you have today? So let's get straight into that. Now that we're done with the preamble, let's talk about Sumo Logic kind of capabilities here. You know, we started with the idea that data collection was most important. You got to have all the data in order to successfully go through your threat hunting kind of capabilities. So what differentiates Sumo Logic from a lot of other tools out there? One is our comprehensive multi-source data collection. Right, so Sumo Logic collects data from all the different sources, including your endpoints, network devices. Hopefully this is why you selected Sumo as your tool of choice and become customers of ours. So I appreciate that. But it's going to collect from your cloud platforms, any third-party tools. This wide-ranging data ingestion ensures that threat hunters have complete visibility across every part of your environment. Again, we're trying to reduce the blind spots. And some of you may be aware of our Flex licensing model as well. So you can bring all the data into the platform, even if you're not ingesting all of that data into Cloud SIEM. So keep that in mind. Ask your sales reps if you're not familiar with Flex pricing or Flex licensing. Be sure to talk to our Sumo sales support for you because I think you're going to appreciate that and why we're pushing on bringing in all the data that you can. Second, from this kind of data collection is the real-time data ingestion. In Sumo Logic, ingest and processes all the logs in real time, ensuring the analysts receive an alert as soon as it's logically possible. It's about finding that suspicious activity quickly. So real-time ingestion supports, again, faster threat hunting and response because we're giving security teams the ability to act immediately on emerging threats, right? A sudden spike in network traffic might trigger an alert and allow your analyst to initiate a hunt looking for potential denial of service activity. right? Cloud native scalability and performance. This is the bread and butter. Sumo Logic brings that cloud native architecture. So again, you can ingest, store, analyze petabytes of data. So if you're not getting all the data into Sumo Logic today, please let us help you out. Let us do that so that we're giving you, the basis, the foundation for this capability. And part of that is being able to pull in both structured and unstructured data. It could be structured data like JSON, kind of things, or unstructured data from anywhere within in the environment. You'll be able to bring that in, and we'll be able to search both structured and unstructured data, as the case may be. And of course, I'm hoping we try to make it easy for you guys with all the pre-built kind of integrations, the collectors that we have out there. So if there's anything that you can't bring into Sumo, let us know. We'll create a collector for it so that we can bring all those things in, make sure that we're normalizing and streamlining the process, and ultimately giving you the contextual enrichment on that data as we can through metadata and threat intelligence feeds, and putting everything in one place, a single source of truth. Okay. So if you got all this data in, you might imagine one of the features is, what do we do with it? How do I get to that baseline so that I can start asking questions and developing my hypothesis for my threat hunting? So here's a real world scenario. I'm going to show you some figures of a global manufacturer using Sumo. Many of you may have seen these slides before, but it's about bringing in billions, 10 billion records from all of their logs, and drilling down into this. What makes our Cloud SIM truly unique is how we view these records, push them through our insight engine, create millions of signals, which generates hundreds of insights, of which 95%, 95 of them did not need you to take any actions, because we looked at it from our global confidence score. We looked at it from Insight Trainer to help you with rule creation and customization, getting it all the way down to what are the numbers of real incidents that you have to deal with. In this case, in this example, going from 10 billion records down to 65 real incidents. Now we have a baseline. Now we have a way of creating a hypothesis and going through and seeing how we can start being more proactive with our security function. And it all starts with search. Everybody should be familiar with search, our search capabilities, right? We do have a flexible search across all logs. Sumo Logic's query language enables hunters to search across multiple log sources in real time. So threat hunters can perform ad hoc queries to investigate anomalies or suspicious behaviors, giving them that flexibility to dive deep into the log data. Correlation of data across systems and sources. The queries allow analysts to combine log data from different sources, such as firewalls, endpoints, cloud services. So you get that unified view of what's happening. This multi-source correlation helps uncover a lot of complex attack patterns and involve into either lateral movement or cross-system attacks or what have you. We're going to be able to show those to you through our search capabilities. And it's about supporting your hypothesis-driven threat hunting. So your threat hunters can now build queries to test hypothesis. It's about potential attacks and so on. There's so much more we can talk about search, but I'm going to get in trouble here with you guys. Give me a two. I could go with a two, right? Give me a two in the chat if you're familiar with our AI search capabilities called CoPilot. 1, we got 2, 0. Yeah, 0. Nobody knows about CoPilot yet. Okay, I'm gonna get in trouble, Lisa, because
Well, it is going to be a future brown bag, but not until 2025.
right. But the good news for me is we did share a demo of our CoPilot back at RSA. So coming soon, Sumo Logic CoPilot, where we're going to take and simplify all the searching capability, the query language and everything down to a natural language search. So you'll be able to just ask the questions. It will write the Sumo Logic query language query, and then you'll be able to customize as necessary. And based on what you ask it, it will give you suggestions of what next to ask. Like, hey, you asked about this IP. Maybe you should ask about this. Maybe you should ask about that. And so it's progressive in its learning what it is that you're looking for. So providing some proactive recommendations based on your historic pattern. Ultimately, you'll be able to take the search results that you get out of this process, and it'll automatically generate dashboards and things for you. So you'll be able to share your hunting capabilities with other people within the organization. Yeah, I see that question about the DoD. As we're building this functionality out, we do have a gentleman dedicated for DoD Fed and making sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's for what's going to be necessary to make that work in those environments. So we're taking care of those things as well. That's about all I can say about that as part of the coming soon portion of that. But it is a question that we talk about for Fed. Okay, what's next in terms of Sumo Logic features to help you with your threat hunting? Who's familiar with log reduce and log compare? So log reduce applies machine learning algorithms to similar log entries. So we're collapsing repetitive events into recognizable patterns, right? It allows you to filter out the noise of an irrelevant data, making uh, which often kind of come with the majority of your logs. So your analysts can focus on what truly matters. So by reducing the volume of raw logs into these actionable patterns, log reduce surfaces anomalies or outliers that might help indicate early signs of a threat. So again, we can look for suspicious login attempts or unexpected process executions as part of the process. Because the benefit to you guys is threat hunters will have significant time. You'll save some time by focusing on only unique or outlier or very specific events rather than reviewing the mountains of redundant data, right? Log compare as a feature that's available to you right now. Log compare helps your analysts compare two different data sets, right? Or identify new or something that's changed or is missing in the log patterns. So this feature is particularly useful in spotting unexpected behavior, such as unauthorized configuration changes or indicators of lateral movement. So threat hunters can use log compare to isolate what has changed before and after a suspected breach or an event. I want to compare, the log, before 2 p.m. with the log after 2 p.m. to see what's different, looking for that inconsistent behavior. So it's, a couple of different features that are available to you to help you in your threat hunting activities. Okay, let's talk about a couple other fun things here. Again, part of the process here, having that baseline for threat hunting is you have to have all the data, but all that data needs to be normalized in a way to help you do your quick search, correlate, and analyze those logs. rule tuning. Rule tuning allows your security teams to adapt your detection rules to their environment. This flexibility is going to help you focus on meaningful threats. Part of this process is our entity-based correlation. So we're able to correlate events across logs based on entities like users, devices, IP addresses to detect patterns of malicious behavior. You might see this in our Yuba capabilities, where we're giving you an alert when it's the first time you see something, or an outlier if we see activity that's happening more than it needs to be. So identifying those sophisticated threats. And then a couple other features that you may not have seen. The picture on the left-hand side is an entity map. So if you're familiar with Cloud SIM, look for the entity maps, which give you a map of how things are connected or related to the entities that are the subjects of your insights. So I can see, it's like, hey, Fred in accounting clicked on a bad email. It developed, there was alert, da da da. I see the insight. I see Fred in the middle. What else connected to Fred at that time? And then I can move these things around so that I can see really what's the blast radius for this attack against Fred. It's about helping hunters prioritize the alerts and the hypothesis and getting a visual context of what might be happening. In addition to just showing you what's related in terms of the connection in that insight, but I'm also throwing in all the enrichments. So if there's a bad IP that connected to Fred, and I have that in the threat intel, I'm going to correlate that, and I'm going to show that visually to you, right in this entity map. So we'll be able to correlate all the threat intelligence feeds, the data, the IPs, the IOCs, everything in real time, and give you that visual of what's happening in the environment. Okay, all part of Cloud SIM. So if you're familiar with Cloud SIM, you probably have seen these. If not, I'm going to give you one last thing that's part of Cloud SIM, and that's our MITRE ATT&CK Coverage Explorer, right? Who's familiar with the fact that we had a MITRE ATT&CK Coverage Explorer in product in our SIM today? Give me a one for that. I think I did a brown bag on this, Lisa, way back when, so they can
Yep,
go back to watch the video,
you sure did.
right? So again, as we talked about, what are the foundational things that you need to do threat hunting really well? Got to collect all the data, need to be able to develop a hypothesis and test that hypothesis via search, and you need to look for TTPs. Right, so this is a way in product. We have this already in our sim today to help you get that map of detection coverage. Right, so the Coverage Explorer shows um, all the hits, every rule that had fired in your activity for the last 6 months, and what TTP is associated with that rule. In addition to just showing you what's happening in your environment, we also anonymize this process, and we can show you everything that's happening in all Sumo Logic Cloud SIM users, so that you can see all the TTPs that are being hit everywhere. And you can start doing a comparison. Again, hey, this particular TTP it seems to be getting a lot of hits, a lot of things are firing on that. I don't see that in my environment. Maybe I should go look for that. Now I'm developing a hypothesis, to guide the threat hunting. So the Coverage Explorer allows you to see again which MITRE techniques are being covered and being detected by your rules, and which ones are not. And if you see the community getting hit with something and you're not being seeing that in your environment, you're either very, very lucky or it's something that we need to hunt down and find out what's happening in your environment. And finally, with the MITRE ATT&CK Coverage Explorer is the theoretical coverage. And if you selected a theoretical coverage view, we're assuming every rule is in play, all 900 plus rules that are in our cloud sim, and every TTP associated with those rules gets hit. What is the theoretical coverage? And right now, our theoretical coverage is hovering about 80% of the TTPs in the environment. And you might say, why not 100%? Well, because we can't get 100%. There are certain things that the sim is not going to be able to detect. There's no alert. There's no rule for some of what the TTPs are in the entire framework, right? But again, so you can start using this feature, this tool, as a way of kind of streamlining, which rules you need to create or adjust, reducing some noise to what's important to your environment for TTPs, see how you're progressing against the community, and where you might start hypothesizing where to look for first or next or what have you in your process, right? And then it allows you to also enable some continuous improvement. So all those things packed into this one feature of the MITRE ATT&CK Coverage Explorer. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up here and give you a couple different ways to get started with threat hunting with Sumo. First, if you're not using our Cloud SIM, you do have some capabilities in monitor alerts. Right. So the monitors in Sumo Logic, again, giving you a real-time alerting mechanism so you can actually go and look for specific patterns of behaviors, even if you don't have our SIM, right? If you do have our SIM, I would get into the MITRE Coverage Explorer, see what rules are being fired, and start looking at customizing those rules, looking for those deeper detection, capabilities. What more detection logic would you like to add? We make it very flexible for your hunting strategies and tracking your TTPs. Every rule has TTP tags. If you create a rule, make sure that you're tagging that rule with TTP tags so you can look and correlate those behaviors that are happening in the environment. And then finally, we do a practical of this class where we sit you down with the tools and you actually go hunt for things in our threat hunting workshop.